Did I spill that on my floor earlier? Yes. Will I do it again? Maybe. Oh, good old 2020. The year when everyone collectively lost their minds, became chronically online, and tried our best to evade COVID at all costs. I was in high school when the pandemic started, and it changed the trajectory of my life forever. If you were a fellow COVID teenager, you'll remember how everything was so amazing when you found out that you weren't going back to school for weeks. And then it became months, and your spring break became an infinite break. Still, the more that break was extended, the scarier everything got. We're all familiar with the pandemic, of course. Well, except for the kids who were born right before or after the pandemic. Like, think about it. The kids who were born in 2020 are going into kindergarten soon, which is actually insane. I don't approve. You know, at least the poor people who have been reading all the college acceptance speeches will be done with the COVID kid essay soon. I'm sure they're pumped. For COVID teens, the pandemic was an open invitation to doom scroll for 6 months straight, which brought a lot of interesting content to our screens. From deep fried TikTok to canceling Shane Dawson on top of Subway Surfers videos, the pandemic TikTok was something else. And let me just say, I truly believe that was TikTok's prime, even though it's so cringy today. I love that era of TikTok, even though I was mentally screwed. But hey, you know, maybe that's why I love it so much. I'm just crazy. One of the many gems to come out of pandemic TikTok was shifttok, a side of TikTok based entirely around the idea that you could shift realities into a different universe. So for all of the girls who were drooling over Draco Malfoy, they could shift into the magical world of Hogwarts and get freaky in the dorm rooms. And I'm not exaggerating, that's genuinely what some people did. This paired with a similar side of TikTok, which promoted manifestation, which is the idea that if you focus enough energy on something, you have the ability to affect reality. So your thoughts are powerful enough to control the reality you experience. Now, I am not a manifestation expert, but I did spend a fair amount of 2020 trying to manifest things. And for a while, I felt like it was working and I was seeing progress and seeing my things and my ideas become reality. It wasn't until recently that I realized that my relationship with manifesting and thinking about things was truly just a glammed up version of my OCD. My manifesting was compulsive and it created some habits that I still struggle with today. So in this video, I'm going to be exploring the history of manifestation, its realities, and why it powered so many of my OCD habits and how it may be powering yours. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. And I'm B, and this is a Butterfly Media deep fly, not a deep dive. The word manifesting didn't quite come to represent what TikTok defined it as for quite some time, as TikTok's definition is really just a regurgitated explanation that has been through many different names and many different times. Alia Faraj writes on her campus that the law of attraction is a large part of manifestation. and it originates from Hinduism. She argues that today's manifestation is really just a westernized version of Hindu practices in which you gain awareness of power and focus on putting that power towards something you want to see reflected in life, whether that's energy or solutions. Farage also notes that manifestation is a controversial take on such practices and is therefore often considered to be cultural appropriation. According to a New York Times opinion piece, one very early form of westernized manifesting is the New Thought movement. The movement was founded in the 1800s by Phineas Park Quimby, and I would hate to be the one who tells him that his daughter was born green. Quimby was known as an American faith healer and a hypnotist, basically one of those early on doctors who prescribed walks on the beach to cure your plague. He noticed that some of his patients were getting better while some of them weren't, and this made him scratch his head and maybe even stroke his goatee, and he eventually concluded that the patients weren't getting better just because they didn't want to get better enough. Though this theory is laughable and incredibly problematic in the medical world today, the initial idea gained a lot of support and made many people believe that medical issues were truly just mental blocks. New Thought then began to spread into the American economy, and it began to spread some misconceptions that are still around today. Many people believed that anyone who was poor simply needed to want to be rich. It's an early version of the American dream, suggesting that people in bad circumstances simply aren't trying hard enough to get out of them. New Thought became so prominent and bigoted that it denied the creation of many social welfare problems in the 20th century. The ideology was used to control many aspects of government and society. In Hinduism, manifestation is incredibly different. For one, it's not called manifestation, but instead the law of attraction. This law is a sacred practice that requires a deep level of understanding and appreciation. One of the most important parts of the law of attraction is that it's not meant to be solely used for personal gain. This directly opposes the New Thought movement's interpretation of manifestation. Rhonda Byrne's The Secret is a book that came out in 2006, and it reintroduced the law of attraction to modern audiences, finally under the name of manifestation. The book was an incredibly popular wellness book that promoted the idea of manifestation as if it were something completely new. Many people loved the book because of its promotion of manifestation and because it seemed so easy and attainable. Others despised the book because of its false claims and negative connotation. TikTok's version of manifestation more closely follows The Secret rather than the actual law of attraction. TikTok manifesting became a regurgitated version of The Secret's modern version of New Thought's whitewashed version of the original Hindu meaning. In a way, manifestation is kind of like someone played the telephone game and began hearing what they wanted to hear instead of what was actually said. Neith Pereira writes in Medium, quote, "Those who have never actually researched manifestation partake in the practice as they would any other internet challenge. In result, the practice ends up becoming less about the tradition and more about the hype. Users upload videos with the hashtag manifestation for views and exposure. Something that is sacred to certain cultures, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, then becomes an activity to do for fun or use for attention," end quote. TikTok's manifestation peaked in 2020 with COVID, as many people were bored and wanting to try new things. It was a belief system that promoted positivity and reassured people that simply believing that everything would be okay meant that it would. Clearly, manifestation helped reassure people that everything was going to be okay during COVID, one of the most intense and uncertain moments of modern history. But TikTok people were promoting a concept so regurgitated that nobody really knew what they were doing. Believe me, chaos ensued. Undoubtedly, 2020 will always be remembered as a dark moment in history. Everyone was isolated, often having only their phones to turn to. Stores saw boosts in online sales, workplaces began adapting to remote and hybrid models, and social media became the only place people turned to for social interactions. TikTok had been around for a bit. Well, that depends on if you count Musical.ly. And I do, because I was a little 11-year-old Musical.ly influencer. Me and my 400 bot followers were like this. TikTok's creation was basically just the combination of Musical.ly and Douyin when company ByteDance bought it in 2017. The two merged in 2018, and many people fully abandoned what was Musical.ly because they were pissed. This made TikTok an interesting place. Still, with the rise of TikTok dancers and Hype House members Charli D'Amelio and Miss Bad Bleep Addison Rae,
Addison Rae,
TikTok was once again becoming more mainstream. People who thought they were too good for TikTok slowly began trickling back onto the app out of desperation for interaction. Quarantine TikTok thrived. From making DIY whipped coffee to playing Among Us, there were many trends we all followed to distract ourselves from the boredom and full-on misery we faced. Manifestation quickly became another one of these sensations. Now, there are many ways that people would manifest things. There were variations in what got manifested and how people did it. Everyone who was posting acted like they were experts on it, and some of them even told people that certain calendar dates were going to affect your manifestation and make it more powerful. Manifesting started to kind of overlap into witch talk, and people would try to communicate with the universe and ask for good energy to come to them. Now, this kind of manifestation is still iffy for sure, but it is better than some of the later manifestation TikToks that we will get to. Still, it's important to acknowledge that anyone who didn't truly understand the history was guilty of some form of ignorance or just blatant appropriation. Most of the people who were posting all of the content about manifesting were the type of people who probably got all of their crystals at Third Planet or Earthbound. I mean, hell, even Five Below has a crystal and incense section now. Manifestation as a trend introduced many people to different forms of spirituality, but nobody was doing their research. So nobody really gained anything from this knowledge. Manifestation was a certain hit though, and it surged in Google search results. It grew 400% more in 2020 than ever before. As you'll see, that number is still incredibly high compared to what it was before. Another important thing to note is that many of the same exact people who were promoting manifestation were also the creators promoting shifting. I've already mentioned, but it was really big in the Harry Potter community, and we got gems like this.
Hey, are we supposed to start this counterclockwise or clockwise? Oh, clockwise. Okay, thanks, Edward. Yeah, no. What'd you just call me? Oh, that was weird. I don't know. Do I know an Edward?
Now, most people have hopefully realized that shifting was really just lucid dreaming, but some creators made it sound really convincing. Like, I remember scrolling through comment sections on manifesting videos, and people who called them fake got responses from the creators being like,
okay, well, maybe you just aren't trying hard enough.
I'm sorry. It's actually so funny how a lot of the negative attitudes that popped up in the New Thought movement still show up in these TikTok comment sections in arguments between teenagers. While I look back on it all and sigh now, manifestation had a real appeal in 2020. So many of us were already hoping that things would get better, so where was the harm if we wanted to believe things would? This hope reached me, and I was desperately looking for things to occupy my teenage mind. It took me an embarrassingly long time to kind of realize how much the pandemic affected me and my health, but it took me even longer to realize how much of an impact manifestation had on me. In an interview with Refinery 29, Dr. Anna K. Schaffner states that manifestation can have negative consequences because of the way it sets the mind up for failure. She discusses in the article, which is linked below, that manifestation ignores the actual privileges that make occurrences in people's lives actually happen. She also notes, quote, "We're just trying to make the world feel more organized by infusing patterns where there are no patterns," end quote. If that isn't the story of my life. I have recently been working with a psychiatrist to help me understand my mind, and I was diagnosed with OCD. Having finally realized kind of what's happening in my mind, I've been able to look back on many of my experiences, and I've realized that they were tied to my disorder. Manifestation happened to be one of those things. I fell down the TikTok manifestation rabbit hole, and I began fixating on all of my thoughts and thinking positively about the world and what I wanted to happen. It started with small mental affirmations, and then it developed into this lovely journal. I was originally using it to write diary entries, and then it turned into, well, let me read it for you. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test. It goes on, and like, I'm not kidding. And I have multiple pages. Like, in case you were wondering, I did not get an A on that history test, nor any of the other ones that I tried to manifest those A's on. I was very proud of those B's though. There were moments that I was convinced that I was actually manifesting things though. For a while, my mom would be running errands and was able to pick up Wendy's for me and my siblings. I think it was like every Saturday morning. Now, I'm a Wendy's loving girl, and so I was very enthusiastic about it. When I saw manifestation TikToks, the first thing I tried it on was manifesting Wendy's. My little pea-sized brain genuinely started to think that I was manifesting the Wendy's and that I had some sort of weird superpowers for fast food. I began really believing in manifestation, even though the Wendy's was pretty much guaranteed a weekly occurrence because of our schedule. Still, the door was open, and I fully believed that it was working. One symptom of OCD can be that you think you are magical or have powers. If you're not too familiar with what OCD actually is and not what it is stereotyped to be, you may be a little bit shocked to hear that. The way OCD functions for many people emphasizes thoughts, intrusive thoughts, and overthinking. Thoughts. This specific form is called magical thinking OCD. According to NoCD, quote, magical thinking obsessive compulsive disorder OCD is an OCD subtype characterized by ongoing intrusive thoughts and compulsive behaviors around superstition or magical thinking to prevent negative experiences or harm to oneself or others. People with magical thinking OCD experience frequent intrusive thoughts that they will be responsible for something awful happening if they do not perform specific actions, end quote. Dare I say, obviously, manifestation is not a good pairing for OCD. Now, there are many different ways in which OCD manifests, but all of them are based in overthinking and obsessive compulsive thoughts and actions. Not everyone who has tried manifesting or believes in it has OCD, but it is incredibly interesting how they intersect. Manifesting methods often involve repetition, which is a common OCD compulsion, and they promote these intrusive thoughts and how they affect real life. For typical people who find out about or try manifesting, it's just a silly thing and a silly way of positive thinking that can make your crush like you back. For people with OCD, manifesting suggests that thinking something enough or putting enough effort into thoughts will make it come true. Many of the intrusive thoughts that people with OCD regularly have are incredibly dark and can be really overwhelming. We can't necessarily control these thoughts, so the thought that they could manifest into reality is really, really frightening. In 2020, as more people began manifesting and the more I focused on it, the more distressed I became. It took me a long time to understand that I didn't need to manifest everything to be successful in my life. In fact, I still struggle with these issues sometimes. OCD looks different for everyone and manifests in different ways. So it's important to understand the ideas and the mindsets certain beliefs or thought processes produce. If you think you might have OCD, or even if you don't, it's always great to speak with therapists and providers about what you're going through. I wish I had been actively speaking to a therapist right when the pandemic started. Sometimes they help you acknowledge and improve upon problems that you didn't even realize you had. If you enjoy manifesting or this form of thinking and it doesn't negatively impact your well-being, then power to you. Manifesting is powerful for its impact on wellness culture, whether it really works or not. Still, it's really important to be aware of things, especially spiritual things, because of their histories and the impacts they continue to have today. So, the next time you think about writing the same phrase 10 billion times in your Beetlejuice journal, make sure you truly understand the history of what you're doing and how it might affect you personally. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. This was a bit more personal for me, so I hope you enjoyed it. And links to everything that I've talked about and researched are in the description, so please give those a read if you want to learn more about manifestation or about OCD. NoCD is a great tool for learning about OCD. No, this isn't sponsored. I have like 10 subscribers, but please. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to hear more history-based pop culture content from me. And you're watching Butterfly Media, and this has been a Deep Fly. I'm B, and I'll see you next time. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A. I will pass my history test tomorrow with an A.